Hello, I'm Anthony Gould, Group Editor-in-Chief of Post Magazine, and our subject for discussion today is fraud, and in particular the use of fraud investigators. And I'm delighted to have in the studio today Tom Scott, founder of the Cotswold Group.
Thank you, nice to be here.
Welcome to the programme. Tom's company was formed back in 1990 and now has 200 staff working across offices in Gloucester, Manchester and Watford, focused on validating suspicious insurance claims. According to most people I talk to at the moment in the sector, there is definitely a recent surge in exaggerated and fraudulent claims, maybe as part of the recession. However, Tom, as a hands-on expert in surveillance, working with most of the major general insurers, what trends are you picking up in terms of fraudulent activity?
I think certainly in 2009 we've seen a 46% increase in creditor claims and well over a 20% increase in personal injury claims. I think this is probably for a number of reasons. I think that the recession downturn has contributed to that, but I also think keener claims handlers focused on claim spend, and I think a more willingness to employ surveillance in order to save on claim spend at the end of the day.
Okay, well, surveillance often feels like something that's only used in sort of more extreme cases. There's a lot of things you might read about in the Daily Mail about people breakdancing when they're supposed to be claiming never to be able to work again. I mean, is this really just a myth? And how on earth can insurers work out when and where surveillance is an appropriate tool to use?
I think triggers within the claims unit are absolutely essential, and that is at ground level. I think if those triggers are in place, I think all the ABI guidelines on the instruction of investigators, you can't go by gut feeling anymore. There needs to be a route map of why you instructed surveillance. This is a result of the Regulatory Investigatory Powers Act, Human Rights Act. There has to be the correct triggers in place for that claims handler to his decision-making process. And then once surveillance is carried out, we're normally suspicious at that point that that person may be exaggerating or even committing fraud. And so most of the cases we deal with, and we deal with over 5,000 a year, have got a very high percentage of exaggeration or fraud within them before they even reach us. It's our job to validate that claim, to obtain film. If the claimant is genuine, then the claim will be paid. But if they're not, then that gives more negotiating power to the claims handler to settle the claim.
Okay, but how on earth do you work out the dividing line, sort of in terms of which cases are worth pursuing in terms of the cost it takes? Other than, in certain sectors, there's a sort of tradition of just pay X. It's not worth investigating. I
think the obviously value plays a big part in any personal injury claim, but in creditor claims the value is much lower, but they are obviously more long term, so that comes into consideration. But in personal injury claims, I think it is driven by value, and the higher the value of the claim, obviously a degree of claim spend can be delivered, and I think certainly in the higher value claims, there's a higher return. We're talking about life-changing sums of money for the claimant, and people are actually setting out to commit personal injury fraud from the outset. They're manufacturing the accident itself. They won't even tell their own lawyer that it's obviously it's a fraud, and even keep it from their own family sometimes. So there is an element of fraud within every exaggerated claim. It's that differentiator between what is fraud and what is exaggeration.
Okay, I mean, I was going to say, in terms of surveillance, it's often seen as something, and I spoke to some claims managers who feel a bit uncomfortable about talking about it, especially in front of claimants. I mean, do you feel there's a mood swing away from that, perhaps benefiting on the back of the acceptance of lie testing technologies, as a genuine claimant's benefit, not paying out?
I think that certainly one insurer recently did a survey and a piece of work where they realised that there was a £40 saving for every pound spent with us on surveillance work. I think with those sort of returns, the indication is that it's a worthwhile activity. And I think the claimants need to know that there is a deterrent, and that deterrent is the use of surveillance. What would we do without it? I think that's the question, is if surveillance wasn't a proactive tool, where would the insurers go? Because you've got it's the only time in the lifetime of a claim when the claimant actually isn't on notice. And if he goes to a medical appointment to see his own lawyer, his own family, they will play the part throughout ahead in front of all those people. Yet secretly they're manufacturing the claim. And covert means is the only way you will see whether that's a genuine or a exaggerated claim.
I mean, certainly if those figures of £40 stand up, I mean, that's quite a strong message that could take out to the policyholder market and say, look, your policies are extremely high compared to what they could be because of all this fraud that's going
Absolutely.
on. I mean,
there needs to be a belief culture within the insurer, I think. And I think sometimes within claims areas there's traditional means of handling claims, whereas if the right triggers are in place at the early stages, then it sort of takes it out the claims handler's hands, and they have to follow a process. And I think sometimes, whereas gut feeling is one of those triggers, there needs to be a number of other triggers as well. And I think it's up to the claims management team to set those triggers with a company like us, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, the final area I'd like to touch on really is the old chestnut for claims managers especially, is the cost-benefit analysis, sort of the return on investment. I mean, especially in these recessionary times, is there any sort of effective measurement out there, any market intelligence, management intelligence information that they can really use to justify the spend?
No, I think management information is crucial. We're not a delegated authority business. We don't see the end result other than verbal contact. As such, we know the industry saves tens of millions a year using surveillance, but there is no real measurement in place. And I think the right triggers, the right management information, and I think claims handlers actually recording the saving. I know lawyers are very keen to get that off the ground, and I think if we can get the claims areas to record the saving, then I think the insurer will truly see a benefit.
And is that something you'd perhaps like to help drive through?
Yeah, we're running exactly that at the moment on a 3-year project where we're recording we're actually doing the management information, and at the end of that 3 years, because claims settle at various times over a 3-year period, and we're going to deliver that information to the insurer to say over that period, over X amount of cases, you saved X, and the use of surveillance was material in settling that claim.
Yeah, well, thanks very much, Tom. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for today. Tom's raised some very interesting points during this discussion, and I'm sure he'll be more than happy to answer any questions or queries you might have via the email address on this player. Otherwise, that's all from us for today, and thank you for watching.